Good morning, Nigerians, and good morning, everyone. Here live in our studio, Politics and Business, and have a beautiful morning today. Here with me is Miracle. Good morning, Miracle.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Sheto. How are you doing this
And
morning?
how's the night?
Let's not talk about the night, but then it was cold.
It was cold, of course. Nigeria is cold, everywhere is cold in Nigeria. And so, Miracle, we don't want to waste much time. We have to go straight to the business of the day. And yes, actually, the biggest story of this year was out yesterday.
Oh,
Guess
yes.
what? Guess?
Obviously, the 2025 budget.
Exactly. That's what everyone is waiting for in this country. We want to know exactly the budget we are going to be working on the year 2025, and we had it yesterday. So thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, the Federal Republic, our leaders. Like I said, we want to go straight into the business of the day, which is, the budgets, the prospects, and what Nigeria should be looking into, and our expectation for this 2025 budget. That's the reason why we'll be having here in the studio an analyst, an economy analyst. That's a person of Mr. Lee. That is our economy in-house analyst, and he'll be joining us live, via Zoom and WhatsApp call, to have a discussion about the budgets, to break it down, which of the ministry or the agency have the largest allocation. And Mr. Wee is going to be joining us live in the studio. Good morning, sir. Okay, before that, something critical happened yesterday in Ibadan. I don't know whether you are aware, where the former queen, good morning, Mr. Wee. Good morning, Mr. Wee.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, how was the night, sir? Welcome to Politics and Business Television, the morning show.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, clear and louder. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you today?
Fine. How was the night? And how the family?
Good.
Oh, yesterday we had a big news that every Nigerian are waiting for. That's the budget for 2025. We had it yesterday. And the budgets...
That's correct.
Yes, and the budget's all about how Nigerians, the money, every sector, every Nigerian will be spending in the year 2025, in the next 12 months. We want a breakdown of these budgets. Mr. Wee, telling us the prospect and exactly how is it going to benefit the common Nigerians, and the realistic about this budget, Mr. Wee.
Okay, that's a fine question. In fact, yesterday is a very good time to be a Nigerian. The budget presentation by the President to the National Assembly is a bold and audacious budget document. Mind you, the budget is one of the most important instruments or documents in the life of any nation. And the way the President, captured the budget was very impressive. The outing is impressive. There was, general support by everyone in the National Assembly, being that the leading, party is also at the National Assembly. Now, the 47 trillion budget is ambitious, very ambitious, in that there are projections in the budget that indicates, the desire of this administration to lift good number of Nigerians out of poverty. But the only concern is the 2024 budget hasn't performed as expected. Maybe is the reason why this is a bit higher. Because our budget naturally is incremental in nature. And the line items in the budget that are very critical, the President looks at defense, having a larger chunk of the budget, and looked at, infrastructure as the second part. Let's have another large chunk of the budget before you have health and education. That shows commitment. We want to see how the implementation will be done we also want to see the breakdown of the budget document, because the implementation or the breakdown of the budget is very critical to the success of the budget. Mind you, 2024, the year 2024 marks the budget of 2024 marks the first full budget of this administration, which is very critical. And this budget has, been released in such a way that we have not seen the full implementation, because there's an extension of the budget to 2025. I think 6 months into 2025. We expect more releases, especially in the aspect of capital and recurrent. We expect to see a bit more impact before the unveiling or the actual rolling out of the 2024-25 budget and its actual implementation. There are key prioritized areas of the budget that are also very important. In planning of budget, of course, we look at the MTF, that is the medium-term fiscal framework. Let's say the last administration, the plan for the fiscal framework has not been fully consummated. Let's say this administration going forward will also review the MTF that was previously done by the last administration, and also look at the fiscal expenditure framework, which is also very critical or important in budget consideration, looking at how this budget can add value, grow the economy, stabilize the socio-political environment of Nigeria, the resourceful and productive utilization of the resources by this administration will be brought to bear if by the time the 2025 budget starts to be implemented. So we want to see how it will affect, in enhancing human capital development. We want to see how it will enhance, the level of education. Currently, there are over 25 million out-of-school children. So we want to see how this budget can actually reduce that number significantly. I wasn't quite comfortable with the fact that defense is having much of the chunk of the budget, considering that education plays critical role in emancipating these citizens out of poverty and making sure that the citizens do not, have a kind of disaffection against the government, thus lifting arm and crossing, social unrest that has characterized our political or our political landscape. So those are the areas that I think that should have been more prioritized, like the education, the health, before even the defense. Then a lot of investment is expected to be found in the area of technology, research and development. These are critical. No nation today can succeed without investment, massive investment in research and development, from the pharmaceutical industry, from the tech component, from even the military. If the military is investing so much in technology, there will be reduction, in the actual cost in the long run in what the defense ministry will be, expending for budget. That would have been, coming up with new technology to help govern ungoverned spaces, or have the coverage of these ungoverned spaces being under control by the government because of the intervention in research. Then we also want to see that the actual implementation of the budget should be such that we have good governance and accountability. The singular principle of open governance is about transparency. The citizens should understand how you're spending their money. There should be value for money on the part of the government. The budget process should promote transparency and should not be perceived, as a document that will favor those around the corridors of government. It should be seen as the people's budget. It should be people-centric in nature, and as ministries or sectorial, agencies goes for their budget presentation, it should be highly participatory. The citizens should be part of the process, so that they can be felt, as it can be seen that they are being carried along in government programs and policies. This way, the budget can have more impact, in stabilizing the economy and also reducing inflation on what we have.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Wee. You have given us a good breakdown of the budget, and you have analyzed the various allocations for this budget. But then I would want to ask, we know that Nigeria, Nigerians, we are expecting a lot, and looking at our goals and objectives, do you think that the budget would align or aligns with the country's goals and objectives for the economic development?
Yes, if there's massive investment in infrastructure, mind you, the budget has a large chunk on infrastructure. If government invests in actual infrastructure, building of roads, dams, schools, and renovations of hospitals and power lines, such investment will create employment. And the key actors of any economy is household, businesses, and the government. So let's say the household heads of household are able to go to some of these sites, get job. They can send some kickback to the family. That provides support in the long run. Then the firms or businesses can be in the value chain of supplying of goods and services. That's the connect. Government will be in the side of releasing funds for those projects, allocating jobs, making sure that firms or businesses, private sectors, play in or becomes a critical component of the implementation of this budget. So doing, the budget will be, will be helping to stabilize the economy very massively.
Okay, sir. You also made mention that though you were not really comfortable with a chunk of the allocation to defense and security, but don't you think that Nigeria, we are really, really battling with our security, and it's been a problem, like a very huge problem for us, the case of insecurity, Boko Haram, kidnappers, and all of this. So why would you, why that statement that you're not really comfortable? Because I feel as much as education is very important, very, very important, the health of the citizen is also very important. But then when there is health and there is education, and then the citizens cannot stay in the country, the citizens cannot live here, you'd see everybody trying to leave, yes, the country. Don't you think that their decision for defense and security being very high, that's a total of 4.9 trillion, don't you think that it is worth it? One, and what's the reason behind your discomfort with that allocation, sir?
All right. Someone sang this song, "A hungry man is an angry man." When talking about food security or national security component, critical component is health, is food security. We don't have food security. We don't have health security. So the neglect on those areas would have an after effect on the general security level of the nation.
But are you aware that most agriculturists and farmers right now are not able to even access their farm products because of insecurity in the country? Especially the northern, most of these integral parts of the state, they can't access food, and then you see grains that should be very cheap and affordable, very expensive right now. You would see farmers can't go to their farm to harvest their crops. You would see the whole cattle rearing incidents and all of that. Don't you think that if security is properly tackled or handled, many of these farmers will be excited? You see people in the village, they can go to their farm, harvest their products, and have food to eat.
Yes, the administration has made meaningful progress in terms of security. But security is not the only problem we have.
Exactly, yes.
We have, yes, it's not the only problem we have. And there is just one key aspect in determining why a nation can have a high level of insecurity. Poverty is a critical component. In fact, there is a correlation between poverty and insecurity. So, because the people are poor, large chunk of the population are poor, the government should work at lifting majority out of poverty. That way, you can battle insecurity. Now, why the chunk in defense when we are not investing in research and development? Let's say the government decide to invest in research and development in the area of security. You would have meaningful progress because with modern technology, you can govern ungoverned spaces. You can have a wider coverage of ungoverned spaces. Currently, there are original equipment, manufacturers that are producing even drones that are attack drones that can actually pinpoint and attack and deter. So that kind of investment can also be prioritized. You don't spend so much in acquiring guns and boots and spend less in providing food. That's not a sustainable budget in the whole sense of it. So if the government focus on educating the citizens, because education is a powerful tool, for emancipation, educating the citizen, providing food for the citizens and good, medical health facilities, you would see a paradigm shift in the areas of insecurity. We want this intervention to be so strategic. In presenting a budget, implementation of a budget, there's need for us to understand the fact that a budget document is a strategic document. So there should be a boardroom or a laboratory where an in-depth analysis, a consideration of different options before a choosing course of action, as to where and how to solve the problem. Yes, and for the past, 10 years, the budget for defense has been usually very high. Now, for that 10 years under review, can it be said that we have made meaningful progress, that we have reduced to 90% the ungoverned spaces? No. So, who are those actors in the ungoverned spaces? Majority of those there's a disaffection because of the level of poverty. If the government deals with those things that causes poverty, release funding for projects, invest in agricultural sector, the government should invest in agricultural sector. Some time ago, I did an article on why the Ministry of Defense or the Nigerian Army should intervene massively in the agricultural sector. Let's say, for example, the Nigerian military have a farm, grain farm. There will be a difference in the management of those farms than as if you have private sector or smallholder farmers, being involved in the farming. The government need to prioritize agriculture in this area, where the Ministry of Defense should coordinate the armed forces to own a farm. In countries like India in the past, for intervention purposes, the military was involved in engineering and in agriculture. So Nigeria is far developed. So we are classified as a developing country. So as a developing country, what is expected for the country is to see that the military getting involved in agriculture will help to boost, food security, and can also help to reduce the ungoverned spaces, because the those armed bandits won't be opportuned or wouldn't want to attack a military farm where army officers or armed forces are involved in farming. They will not do that. It shouldn't be in isolated communities. It should be far, far in most of those ungoverned spaces. So doing would have solved that problem of food insecurity, reduce inflation, because there's a connect between the level of inflation and the and food.
Okay.
So we can reduce. Yeah, we want to ask question. Go ahead.
Okay, please go. No. Just round up so that we.
Okay. Now there's a connection between the rising cost of food, groceries, this level of insecurity. Now we can reduce this food inflation because chunk of the inflation we have in the country is, at the point of the food sector. The food sector has a larger chunk, less than about 40% of the inflation or even more. So if we try to bring down or allay the fears of those who work in the farm, bring down the cost of food production, give confidence, we have the military bringing out, selling their grains, their grocery to distributors, the military farms, you would have significant reduction in the level of inflation. We will not be, looking at the problem at the sky when the problem is just beneath us and we can solve it strategically.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wee, for all your background analysis on how things should have worked. But from your point of view, you were telling Nigerians that, there are sectors that deserve more chunk of these allocation, and there are some that they shouldn't have these enough allocation. For example, like you saying that, based on what my colleagues say here, that due to the insecurity we are battling with Nigeria, she sees nothing wrong in that that budget allocation budget to that. But meanwhile, yes, I also agree with you with the fact that a hungry man is an angry man in that regard. There are some country that in fact they don't have allocation for their security because everything is going fine in their country. Well, going further, Mr. Lee, do you think the revenue projection in these budgets are realistic given the current economic climate?
Yes, the revenue projection also is a pointer to the success or the failure of this budget. For example, chunk of the dollar that will come from this budget is via the oil and gas sector. The projection is showing that we are expected to produce more of crude oil so that we can earn more of the dollar inflow into Nigeria. Now, the budget didn't show how the agricultural sector will lead or the technological sector will lead. So we want to see the breakdown of this budget. The assumption that we'll sell more of crude oil in the fiscal year 2025, it is really not sustainable. Let me give you an example of why I say so. Recently, the Prime Minister of India visited Nigeria. I was expecting a landmark, signatories or agreement. Just a week ago, the same Indian PM that came to Nigeria didn't have to go to Russia, but there was a deal between the Russian government and India, in the Indian government, whereby chunk of dollar investment worth over how many billion? I can't give the figure. In the area of oil and gas, Russia will supply India massive quantity of crude oil. Now, we would have gotten that deal by the visitation of the president or the prime minister of India, but we didn't get that. So, if a country is coming, leadership coming to your country, it shouldn't be about the ceremony. It should be about what are we to gain by this visitation. There should be bilateral agreement that favor Nigeria very significantly. Whenever in the last administration in the U.S., when the president of the United States travels to Saudi Arabia, he's going to sign a very serious agreement that will favor the American economy.
The last administration, that's the administration of President
Trump.
Okay, Trump or Nigeria. Are you talking about US or Nigeria?
No, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about an example of what happened when you have a visitation or you visit. Now, the Prime Minister of India visited Nigeria. I was expecting a landmark bilateral agreement to be stood up and signed, especially what we have more that India demand. India has a need for palm oil. India is the second largest user of palm oil in the world. Nigeria will, sign a bilateral agreement to supply 60 or 40% of Indian palm oil needs. India does not produce crude oil. They depend on crude oil from Russia, Nigeria, and any other country. Now, India used to be a very major consumer of Nigerian crude oil. But with the bilateral agreement between Russia and India recently, which is just about a week, that will automatically reduce, the projection. So we want to, improve in the production. And if it is possible, I don't advocate Nigeria at this point being under OPEC control. So we can pull out of OPEC. That is strategic to meet up our crude oil, export demand. If we can increase the production level, to 5 million, and be able to sell to the world, the scarce dollar will rule in, and it will stabilize the economy aggressively. Because to really stabilize the economy, you also need to look at how you can affect the currency. You can impact the currency, so that our exchange rate will be, will be rebounding. Now, the exchange rate cannot get better if you don't earn a lot of foreign, exchange. So to earn foreign exchange, we want to, deploy all strategic approach in selling, everything from Nigeria, from crude to agri to technology to medical, even to medical workers. Take, for example, country like North Korea largely depend on the export of manpower. So it's not a brain drain, as some people put it. It can be a brain gain if you train and deploy to other countries where there is need and they have remittances into your country. The country will, have a lot of foreign direct investment, and as well as foreign exchange. These are strategic, way of governance.
Okay, Mr. Wee, now with this policy of these governments, even before the presentation of the 2025 budgets, and we've seen how, it has hit harder on Nigerians, the common Nigerian. Everybody in this country, we have to say the facts, are complaining about the policy. Even despite the fact that the government says that, no, it's for the betterment. We need to reform. We need to do this. We need to do that. Every day, if not for let me say last week that we are seeing the drop of the dollar rate, that we are maybe optimistic that maybe before 2025 or thereabout, the first quarter of the year, 2025, things might definitely change. So now with this budget and, as an economist and seeing the whole thing, of what's potential, the implication and the policy do you think this budget we have on the common man? Because no matter what you want to do as a government, as a leader, you have to think, you have to factor the common man. It is me and you that knows that, okay, fine, there's a long-term benefits. There are a lot of benefits in this proposed budget by the government. But how do you think, or if I may ask, if you are given the opportunity to advise the government, and how this budget is going to positively, have an effect on the common man in Nigeria, what would that advice be, and how are you going to go about it?
Well, the first is the government is on the right course in this policy. If some of those policies have not been implemented, who knows? Nigeria may have collapsed or gone the Venezuelan way. But the leadership of under President Tinubu
thought it wise to sustain these policies because they have long-term benefit over short-term disadvantage. Nigerians, yes, going through hardship is a cost. Let's assume that it is sustained and that is transparency, and the citizens are made to buy into these policies through the Office of the National Orientation, and there's a larger support of the citizens. You would not have a disaffection that the level of disaffection we have now, But the common man on the street or the ordinary person, I think everybody is a common man. To be modest, everyone can benefit from this budget more if the government invests in infrastructure, invests in education. Such investment and release of funds, would have a critical benefit on the people. The only problem with Nigerian budget most time is implementation or monitoring and implementation. Who monitors the implementation of budgets? The government should be held accountable by the National Assembly and even by the citizens. We want to see more of that in the 2025 and see how the citizens can, ask the government more questions. The government is desirous to have people ask questions, and is also desirous to see people, get answers to those questions. So, but that can only be possible when there is transparency and open governance in such a way that the citizens have access to information. That will be buy in the long run, and there will benefit of this policies, from the tax reform policy to the removal of fuel subsidy, PMS and subsidy, and all of that. They are very critical to the survival of Nigeria at this point.
Do you think that what's your belief that this government, the people of this country, Nigeria at large, has lost their trust in this government? Because seeing when this government says that they want to, there's a tax reform bill, the way, especially although yes, they might see it as a regional thing, but the way the people from the northern part of the country, rejected this, that they don't want it because, and some of their reason is that, fine, you said you want to remove our subsidy, we are not seeing the transparency. Do you see that this government has done enough in terms of transparency to its people?
Yes, it has. In fact, anyone who is against the tax reform bill, especially I think it's the political class that are largely against it. And for some of the northern governors who are against it are doing so for selfish interest, not for the good of the people. It is a disservice for any regional, unit of this country not to think outside the box. Governors are just the same as a CEO of a state. So they need to be strategic about the approach to generate revenue. They need to invest in the people. They need to invest in interventions that would grow their state economy. Over time, the governors are, most governors are docile. They just depend on the fact, these allocations. And these allocations are not in any way, going to leave those states' citizens out of poverty. So it is expected, because we are operating a federal system, the governors should think out to the boss, roll their sleeves, invest funds of the states, attract foreign direct investment, attract companies from different parts of the world to come and invest in their states. The problem is that most of the governors do not have the know-how. They don't have the capacity. One thing is about, being in leadership position. Another is about transforming the fortune of your people. And that can only come by being visionary, by collaboration and partnership. Those who can give you the right advice, put you on the checks on how you can have a larger chunk of foreign direct investment or investment in, building of funds or firms like manufacturing companies in those states across Nigeria. Like let's take, for example, the state in Niger, in the north, the Niger State government, for example, has invested massively in agriculture. That is sustainable. I've not heard him complain about the tax reform because he knows that agri holds the key to survival of this nation. So if he invests, strategically and sustainably, definitely there will be reward. There will be consequence, economic consequence to that effect. So, but some other state governors have decided not to invest, have decided not to think outside the box. They are expecting to get it to the game to be the same as usual. So, but the current administration, President Bola Tinubu, doesn't believe in game as usual. He's changing the dynamics and expects those key players in the political space as governors should also take the lead in emancipating their citizens out of poverty by investing. In fact, there's no state that is not viable. All the states in Nigeria are viable, but most state governors do not understand the how or are not strategic in their approach of governance and leadership so much that they are able to create employment, so much that they are able to lead their people out of poverty. When you count out of school children, for example, it is in state and in local governments. And yet, most of the state governments have security votes. Most of the state governments, back to back have been benefiting from this old way of doing things. And now there is a tax reform that needs to change the paradigm. There should also be change, by the state governors to comply with the current reality.
All right, thank you very much, sir. You've made some points clear to us and clear to our viewers out there. Just in conclusion, what would you say is your overall assessment of the 2025 budget, and what are your recommendations for implementations of this budget?
Okay, thank you for that question. Overall, I commend the president for presenting such audacious and bold document.
Audacious.
Yes,
really audacious. All right,
yes, it's audacious. Okay, if the president needs to be commended for such document, then he needs to also put in place monitoring and evaluation mechanism, implementation tools for the budget. We want to see the line by line implementation strategy, of the budget in a way that can restore confidence or trust. You mentioned earlier about trust deficit. Now, trust can only be possible when there is openness, when the government is transparent. This budget should be seen as being for the people and not for those in government and by the government. It should be people's oriented document, that is looking at the need of the people. Although generally, our budget method is not the best of it. I believe that with the new leadership in the budget office, maybe subsequently we would have a better way of doing our budget in such a way that even our old parents in the village, will be factored into budget before budget, implementation or budget document is out. Because the communities where you come from, nobody has gone there to pick line items that are critical need of the people. Therefore, we look forward to a future where budget will be based on need, community to community need. That will become more participatory. We hope that the budget is fully implemented. We know we have never gotten a fully implemented budget, but we believe that it should go above the mark, of 60, 70. It should get to at least 90 or worst case 80%, delivery, so that the citizens can get the best or can benefit. It can be impactful. It can stabilize the economy. It can also help to, attract, foreign out of it.
Okay, like it seems we have issues of network miracle. Like Mr. Wee has said it a lot, and trying to give us a perspective and what Nigerians should be expecting. Where it was there was an under allocations and over allocation in this 2025 budget. To him, he said, like, well, why not education? Why the security? And like based on what you said, like based on the insecurity, challenges that we're facing in our country, why you see nothing wrong and you say fine? No, if we have education, if our people are enlightened, they won't go into such kind of things that they are not properly done. Well, he also has his own points, but we thank you very much, Mr. Wee, for this your analysis and your input that you gave to us in this morning in our studio and to Nigerian. We must say thank you very much on behalf of Politics and Business Television. Thank you very much, Mr. Wee.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Okay. So
thank you very much, sir. He mentioned some very important things about the implementation. His suggestions about the implementation. He mentioned the monetary and evaluation strategy. So the government should look into the monetary and evaluation strategy such that there'll be the tools for implementation will be very open and very clear, transparent for the citizens, because all of this is for the benefits of the citizens. Just as Mr. President said that all of this is to revamp social economic fabric of our society. And then he also made mention that he's looking forward to a time where the budget should be based on community to community basic needs. And I think I really agree with that, where the budget is looking at the community need, looking at the needs of Nigerians, not any form of selfish
I agree with you. That's where the transparency come in, because you can't give us what you can't say that, okay, we want to give you this. Meanwhile, that is not our priority.
Exactly.
There should be, to me, I believe that there should be a kind of a town hall meeting. Call the critical stakeholders, the traditional rulers,
let's
the
know what their
leaders.
major needs are.
Don't
this
just
is what
bring this
Nigeria
budget.
is looking for.
Yes.
Let's know what
if you're
their
saying
major
security, although yes, Nigeria that we are at the moment, everywhere, everybody, every region is tackling with security. But the major places that the security is fighting is the northern. So what are you bringing security for in Lagos? Why are you bringing? Although yes, we know it's a responsibility for everybody to be secured, but we should ask, what do you need? You can't bring what I don't need to me. My need might be different from your own need. So I think the government should also look into that. It's very important.
All right, thank you. And then finally, he made mention that he really praised and expects that the budget will be at least 80% deliverable. And we are also pleading to the government that this budget should be really deliverable.
Well, we're going to a short break now. When we come back, we're still going to talk on the budget. Although, yes, on budget, and we're going to talk about the agricultural part of the budget, which I see very, very important as well, because we have the land, we have all what it takes, miracle. We shouldn't look into oil only. We should look into other sector that can give us money. Like I said, when the Prime Minister of India, came to the country, we should have kind of enough MOU or kind of understanding. Like, fine, we have these. Let's produce. Let's provide this for you, and let's see how it can work. We shouldn't only depend on our oil, because it's making us to have a setback. So let's quickly go for a newspaper review, and when we come back from that, we have our second guest. Thank you.
Welcome back from that short break, and this is the newspaper review for this morning. The Daily Trust. All right, so on our Daily Trust, the major story is scores of children feared dead in Ibadan Carnival Stampede. It was really the major story, aside the budget that has been online, and that's been happening in the country. We have parent demand release of corpse and organizers arrested. All right. On the top left, we have 2025 budget. Security gets lion share. Gobs one. What's that?
No, that's I think 14. I mean
4.9 trillion.
He said 4.5 trillion in 5 years.
Okay, 4.5, but then 4.9 trillion in 5 years. All right. So on the top left, we have CBN rejects POS agent to 1.2 million daily transaction. 100,000 for customers. All right. On the lower part, we have victims cries out as FCTA demolishes 20,432 structures. That's a lot of structure that was demolished. All right, we'll be going to the Nation newspaper. All right, blueprints. Many feared dead, injured in Ibadan Children Fun Fair. It's really sad how a fun fair was turned into an incident of mourning, and then we just pray that the lives will just rest in peace, and there will be consolation to the parents or the children involved. We have the 2025 Tinubu targets 34.82 trillion naira revenue to fund 49.7 trillion naira budget. That's
massive.
That's really massive on the blueprints this morning. All right, so let's move to the next newspaper. The Nations. Okay, the major story on the Nation: economy rapidly responding to reform stimulus, says Tinubu. Economy rapidly responding to reform stimulus, says Tinubu. And we have on the top left of our paper, 32 feared dead in Ibadan stampede. It's like it's repeating in all the papers we have for today. Let's look at the next newspaper. All right, down to the Punch. The Punch is telling us that Onit's ex-wife, other face probes as 32 children feared killed.
That's serious. I told you when we were about to start this program that, an incident happened in Ibadan. Well, this is an innocent gathering, but look at how it ended. So we just pray everything will go well the way we want it. And, below that headline, that massive headline, that's UCH, 2 other confirmed 16 deaths. Makinde vows justice, sympathize with parents. That same story of our new wife's ex-wife. I beg your pardon, that's Queen Naomi. It called over 5,000 children to have a fun fair and Christmas party. And look at how it turns out. That's an innocent gathering, but look at how it went. We hope. Let's move to the next newspaper, which is a leadership newspaper, please. Leadership, yes. Still same on a passenger groans as flight tickets to east near 1 million. Another dimension. It's all about transportation. We are in the festive period, and definitely people want to go to their hometown to have this celebration, but look at what is happening at this moment. God will definitely help us. Let's quickly round up the last newspaper, which is this Vanguard newspaper. Yes, reason for beavers 7 reasons for beavers may never work in Nigerian investigation. Well, this is an electoral process. This is we're talking about the election. Let's wait and see before the 2027 will come up. Tinubu seek 34, we said it earlier, that's a revenue to fund the 49.7 trillion budget. Well, all I need to say about this budget is let there be transparency and let there be a proper implementation in this budget. Well, that's for today. That's all we have for the newspaper review and Politics and Business Television. We'll quickly be having our second guest on live to discuss the allocation on agriculture in this 2025 budget. And the reason why we need to have that, we keep complaining about the depending on oil sector only. like Nigerian, we are blessed. This country is blessed. We have a massive land. We have people, we have farmers that they are ready. In the last administration, we could see what the farmers were doing in terms of, contribute. Today, everybody is eating Nigerian rice. That was kudos to the farming, the previous administration. But we are going to have a farmer in our studio via a phone call to tell us if they are really satisfied with this government in terms of the way they are treating them and the current allocation. Are they okay with that? Are they optimistic? Do they have any, joy in these 2025 proposed budgets? But before that, let's quickly go for a short break. Then we come back and our guests will join us live. Let's have a quick short break now.
Welcome back from the short break, and we'll be going to our next discussion, which is still on the budget, the 2025 budget, which is the top on every paper this morning, and it's the concerns of every Nigerian today. And joining us in the studio via a phone call is no other but an agriculturist who is Mr. Redson Tedeke. You are welcome to the show this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you very much, sir. You've gone through the budgets for the 2025 budget. So what was your initial thoughts, or what are your initial thoughts on the allocation of agriculture in the 2025 budget?
Let me say this. From the past, this is a massive improvement. 826.5 billion allocated to agriculture in the budget is a massive improvement from the about 362 billion that was allocated in the last budget and the about 228 billion allocated in the year before that. Now, why is this massive? It is massive because, like we have always said, Nigeria needs to do anywhere from 1 trillion to 2.5 trillion annually in agricultural investment, in all of these components that government is looking at. And what are we talking about? We are looking at the areas of agricultural mechanization. You are looking at the areas of irrigation projects, value chain development. You are looking at cluster agriculture. We should move away from political agriculture to real rural agriculture. And so when you see 800 and almost $1 trillion dedicated to agriculture, that is massive, that is huge. More needs to be done, but this is beautiful.
All right, sir. How do you think that the budget allocation would impact farmers' operation, specifically in terms of access to credits, inputs, and markets?
Good. Now, that is a very interesting and particular question, in the sense that one of the biggest challenge of agricultural productivity in Nigeria today is lack of access to funding. So what this federal government must do with this money that is being allocated is dedicate at least 30% of it to single-digit lending to real farmers. But if you stop doing it the way they are currently doing it, the way they are currently doing it, you have no impact. What am I talking about? You don't improve agricultural productivity by continuing to lend to politicians who will give to their followers. No. Go to clusters. what I call cluster agriculture. Learn to prime anchors, like what Buhari did with the Anchor Borers program. Learn to prime anchors. Let prime anchors then follow up by lending or supporting their ad growers. Because if the prime anchor is the one supporting the ad growers will look at will be what do you call it? Will be responsible for the prime anchor. But when government is doing it, they are not responsible to the prime anchor. So they should move away from political intervention, go to productive intervention, and ensure that prime anchors have the right support they need. For example, why is it that we don't have cluster agriculture in every geopolitical zone of this country, in every senatorial district in this country, where you are funding massively at less than 5% rate? Because lending to Nigeria agriculture, even at 9%, is one of the highest in the world. We cannot afford to keep suffocating Nigerian farmers. So I believe that with this new budget, with the increase in revenue, even though I feel that is due to devaluation, I am very, very confident that more sheep lending will be part of this of the full roadmap. Thank you.
Okay, now the question here I want to ask, before this budget or aside this budget of 2025, will you say this government is doing well to you farmers and now comparing to the previous governments?
With this budget of 2025, in fact, outside this budget of 2025, this government has, sorry to use some of these words, they have been an epic failure when it comes to agricultural productivity. Look, food is life. A government's primary responsibility is the security of life and property. To secure life and property, you need to feed people first. And when it comes to that aspect, since the president came to power, it has been massive failure and a challenge to the Nigerian farmers across board. However, you expected that to be different. I mean, one of the biggest, Buhari government the last 8 years had some of the toughest challenges. Crude oil price at their lowest level, COVID-19, NSAF, and all of those challenges. But we do not have this much problem with food. You see, when you evolve government policies and you ignore the primary foundation of your economy, which is the informal sector, Nigeria, the agricultural sector accounts for more than majority of our employment. 70 million hectares of farmland, 40 million arable hectares of farmland, 200 million people, average age of 19, most of them in rural Nigeria, for goodness sake. If this government had done the right thing when it comes to agriculture, we will not be where we are with regards to food inflation. However, the failure of yesterday must not be used to judge the actions of this budget. The budget is good. I hope that they will not continue to do interventions that are primarily literally geared to fail, but interventions that are focused on rural production. I repeat myself, real rural production. Because when you begin to do agriculture in Abuja and Lagos and the capital cities, you are ignoring what is the foundational interest, which is rural Nigeria is a productive engine that has not been tapped, and agriculture is the way we can unravel that fantastic hub of our own productivity and growth. Thank you.
Do you think agriculture can rescue Nigeria from their current situation in terms of boosting our economy and also putting a lot of things in the right shape in this country?
Nigeria has a way of lying to ourselves. If after agriculture, what is capable of rescuing Nigeria? What is the capacity of the service sector? Boss, sorry, you PG said, what do you get? Now, what did this country get? You know they make cars, you know they make smartphones, you don't do anything, but you have 70 million hectares of farmland and 40 million of them arable. Much of your youth are unemployable. They are mostly in rural Nigeria. Nigeria has the capacity of generating in excess of $25 billion from cattle alone within the next 10 years. And that has to do with, so when you say, oh no, we don't want Ruga, have you looked at the economics of Ruga? Ruga and the Fulani headsman and the American cowboy are one and the same person. But the American cowboy industry is a $500 billion industry, and the Nigerian Fulani headsman industry is all about what? Fulanization, Islamization, Northernization. And you see, so the Fulani industry alone, the cattle industry alone, can actually give this country $100 billion every year. What are we making every year currently from crude oil? That is just that. Are you talking about ginger in Kaduna? Are you talking about cocoa in the north? Are you talking about cashew in the north central? Or you are talking about grapevine that does? So the only potential, the only capacity for Nigeria to get out of the current quagmire that we have, economic quagmire, inflation challenges, is through agriculture. And that's why I always say, my brother, that until Nigeria farm, Nigeria is never going to work.
All right, so I know that agriculture has its challenges, and we know that climate change has been one of the challenge agriculturists or farmers experience. So how do you think that this budget allocation is going to address this situation? Because it sounds like the major challenge that agriculturists experience.
Right? I get your point with regards to climate change and all of those talk. But Nigeria does not have a climate problem. Nigeria, without the flood you have in this country, we don't have a climate problem. When flood comes every year, what is the percentage of your land that is covered? I'm very confident it's not up to 5%. So how is that your problem? It is not your problem. Climate is not our problem. You see, the issue about most of the time, sorry to say this, the government is that they chase the wrong horse with the right money. What we need to do is to focus on rural agriculture. Our people, every year, majority of the food we eat, 70% of the food Nigeria eats comes from smallholder farmers. They're not a get climate problem. If you support them well, they will farm. If you provide the proper farm anchor, those small order farmers will become the outgrowers. So don't bring in something that is not like what the president said before they became president. He said it's like the rat in the chalice. I said describe myself. You don't get food to shop. You talk about climate change. You don't get food to shop. You talk about GMO. What you need to do first is fund real productivity, enhance the capacity for people. Then those areas that have climate problem, you address it. And what is the easiest way to address climate problem? Plant trees. Are we planting trees in this country? What was the last time Nigeria planted trees? From planting trees alone, have you forgotten that slavery was the premise on tree plantation, on plantations? From planting trees alone, you can generate $100 billion from agriculture in the country. We don't have a climate change problem. We have a policy problem, we have inflation problem, we have a food problem, let us solve that crisis, and then climate change can take care of itself.
Okay, now, the budget is already here, and by next year, we'll start seeing implementation. Do you have a confidence in the critical stakeholders that are involved in this agricultural sector? Do you think that everything is going to go well, even with the budgets?
In fact, the answer is no. Because if you look at the current budget and look at the failure with regards to the budget, we lost last dry season. They said we were doing a wheat program, which was a total failure. We lost this rainy season because the government intervention were horrible, and the understanding about agricultural productivity was lacking in the government. Now we have a new budget. So if you ask me if I am confident that this budget will work, I am only being a Nigerian by saying, may Nigeria succeed. But the reality is that failure of the past puts us in I'm tongue check, I'm worried about implementation. But if you look at what the budget is saying, it shows probably they have learned from the past and they are willing to fund this current farming season. But you see, you need to start now. You're talking about next year, no. If to prepare for next year rainy season, you are supposed to have started now. Immediately you're passing the budget today, before the end of January, February, you have funds out, you have farmers happy, you get them ready, get them prepared, so that your harvest will be bountiful. But if you are not working on it as you are speaking, if you are not ready before the end of January, then sorry, Otilo, what happened last year is going to repeat itself again this year. But I'm confident that with the increase in allocation, hopefully they're having a change of mind and will do the right thing. Thank you.
All right, sir, I have a question to just a little bit challenge what you have said. I know that you're speaking with so much passion, and we can really tell that this has been like a pungent issue or desire in your heart. But then, if we look at, we're talking about agriculture, but we look at security, which obviously has the chunk of the allocation. We know that there are different types of security challenges. We have the Boko Haram terrorists, which has led to humanitarian crisis, thousands of out-of-school children because of these Boko Haram terrorists. And we have the Niger Delta militancy, which has led to pipeline vandalism, kidnapping of expertise, which has also led to sharp drop of oil revenue. And then also we have farmers' heathers crisis, destruction of farm crops, killing and maiming of farmers. We have reprisal attacks, which has also led to low food production and high cost of food items. We have farmers' heathers crisis, we have banditry and kidnapping. We have a lot on banditry and kidnapping. Nigeria roads are not safe. Schools are also unsafe. Streets, homes, and places of work are also not safe. Kaduna government closes down school due to the, I think, 140 students that were kidnapped. We have Senegal Islamia school students still in captivity after payment of 3 million naira. Now, these are examples or types of security challenges that Nigeria has been facing. And then in this, we have, I made mention of of the farmer headers crisis, destruction of farm crops, and all of this. You have made us understand that, okay, the allocation is okay, and this is going to bring about the stability we desire in our economy. But looking at all these security issues, do you still think that the major allocation of this of agriculture would bring about stability to our economy, looking at everything I have mentioned? And then agriculture is also involved, because we have threats, we have farmers can't really go to farm to farm,
Okay.
and the whole issues.
You are sorry to say this, but you're actually making a reactionary explanation.
All right.
See, let me tell you why I think you are. We don't have any security problem. As funny as it sounds, I'm being very blunt with you.
Really?
You have an economic problem. Yes, you have an economic problem. You see, the reason, if you look at the basic, I don't want to support them. I'm not supporting them anyway, but what is Boko Haram? Boko is a haram, isn't it? What was the foundation of that? What you have is places that used to be high productive zones were ignored by governments. What happened to Lake Chad? We did not plant enough trees, we didn't recharge Lake Chad. So what used to be massive economic zone became dry land, veggie land. For what? They said, when a mind is not occupied, what happens to that mind? So what Nigeria needs to do is to take care of our economic challenges. Let me ask you a question, because this is very clear too. How many kidnappers did you have in the 1970s and 1980s? How many? Compared to our time today. How many Yahoo boys did you have in the 1980s and 1990s? How many prostitutes do you have then and now? What has happened is that we have eroded our economic strength over time by the cost of the crude oil. We were cursed with crude oil. It's supposed to be a blessing, but it became a curse. Governments and politicians have abandoned what was productive in their zone. Rubber used to be massive in the south. Cocoa used to be massive in the southwest. Granite, cotton, and all food used to be very massive in the north here. And look at Kaduna, for example. Look at the textile in Kaduna. Have you driven through Kaduna recently? All the textile plants have become churches. Okay? So when the nation begins to build more church and mosques and factories, what do you expect? So you lose the economic edge. And once you lose the economic edge, insecurity must come. Because the end result of lack of economic engagement is violent, extreme opinion on the street that leads to what? Insecurity. So what do? You fix the security problem. I keep saying this, no matter the armory that the federal government puts in the budget and dump on the street, when people are hungry, only God knows this solve their problem. Sebi, you know now. So let us not react. Let us do what is right. And so let me clear your doubt. What is the dark spot in the Nigerian state today? They are the rural communities. Why did they become dark spots? You abandon them. What are they doing? You are not supporting their food production. When you are not supporting them, who takes charge of them? Boko Haram. I'm an ex-minister for the Niger Delta. Are you aware? I was recruiting men in the Niger Delta as well. It was Buhari that took me away from the creek and to National State to become a farmer. I said, look, listen, you leave the creek, come to agriculture, we will support you. Once you supported me, I'm supporting more than 500 people, the whole community, give them light, everything. Do I have time in my community? No. The governor of National State has been here several times. So you see, solve the economic problem, put the effort there, which is why I said that as good as this budget is, we need to increase it, we need to make it bigger. Touch your rural communities, make them productive, and you realize that your insecurity will drop by 50%. But wait, you don't give them food for village. You don't give them job. Their farms no day. You can't tell me say they don't go carry guns. Havana, think them. That's what I say you are doing. It's a reactionary argument. Let's make constructive economic argument. Fix the economy, and then most of the insecurity will be gone. If you don't fix the economy, what do you think the West? Look at the US, $50 billion every year to agriculture. Why do you think that is? Because if the people are hungry, there will be unrest. Europe, have you not seen farmers carry and dumping them on parliaments? Why do you think that is? Because they understand the significance of agriculture. Have you not seen that the whole of Europe area for 5 years are budgeting 307 billion euro to support agri? China is self-sufficient, almost self-sufficient on food production. China does over $300 billion to make sure that they feed 1.7 billion. You know why? India over $150 billion every year. You know why? Because they understand the importance of food. Was you able to provide enough food for your people, they will rest well, they will chop well, they will live well. You don't give them food. You say me they don't crazy. Who you be now?
Well, you've spoken so well about that. I don't have an issue with agriculture. We know that agriculture plays a very important role in the economic situation.
Sorry, please, it doesn't play a very important role. Look at your economy. You have to look at your country to understand what works, right? Because the challenge is always, when people tell me about smart this thing, think, look, your stock market is a waste to you. It's not helpful to you. Let me be very clear with you now. Are you making cars? Do you have an automobile industry? No. You have a service industry. What challenge of service industry is that they are short time. There's no long time growth with the productivity with the service industry because it's all about services. So you import a lot and you produce very little. So agriculture is the mainstay. And anybody say when you I don't want you to say agriculture is it is too important. It's the only important component. Why? It's the job component or the industrial component of agriculture are very bad. In my farm you have nurses and doctors. Why? Because I have people working. That is medical, right? In my farm you have fabrication, building of machines. That is engineering, right? In my farm, we have a chemical unit where we test fertilizer and coal. That is what. So almost every component of development is there, which is why look at the revolution of the past. The industrial revolution was an agrarian revolution. It was agriculture. Slavery was what? They took us from there to go and farm their plantation, agriculture. Colonialism was primarily all about raw materials, agriculture. The treaty of making that made China give up Hong Kong to Britain was based on opium. Opium is what? Agriculture. The tax on tea that led to the U.S. war of independence was agriculture. Your history, China's growth, agriculture. So what are we saying?
Mr.
Agriculture is the mainstay. You get agriculture right, you can solve the Nigerian economic problem.
Mr.
So it's the only thing that needs to be done right.
I understand that, and we all understand that agriculture is important. You can't say it's the only thing, anyways, but it's important. It is important. But then what I am saying is that there are challenges. Let's look at the nature of our country. Let's look at the situation in our country. We're not comparing with other countries, because you look at the security situation of other countries. It's completely different from what is happening here in Nigeria. So let's look at Nigeria as a country and look at the challenges we have been experiencing and facing. And we see that these challenges the challenges are affecting the agricultural aspects. Do you understand?
What are the challenges? See, you look at the Brahmaslow law of needs. What is the primary need of man?
I'm basing this point. I'm putting a nail on security. Do you understand? I'm putting a nail on security.
Look at the Maslow's first law. What is the primary need of man? It is food.
Without security, Mr. Redstein, without security, you wouldn't have people go to the farm to get food. Why is food expensive now in Nigeria? It's because farmers cannot harvest.
Wait. Well, if you deploy your security effectively, you can get a lot of things right. Your policemen attack to big men. Why don't you create a security corps that focuses only on agriculture? But like what agro rangers that the former president was trying to do. You will solve this problem. Because see, once you are pushing it to security, right, you are ignoring the elephant in the room. The elephant is that if it's because people are not well fed, that's why most of them are on the streets robbing. So why don't you try and look at the economic need? The law of human beings that, look, sis, we're having this convention now. If you leave the studio, if your car breaks down, you will survive. If your smartphone quench, you will survive. But can you survive if you don't eat?
Let me give you an example of something that happened recently.
To solve that problem.
I'll give you an example of something that happened recently, and then it's very practical and very personal. All right, so I went to the market, and normally as women, when we want to get something really affordable or farm products that are very cheap, we would not just go to the general market, we go to bush markets. Now, maybe you want to get there are certain farm products that we would need, and we'll go to these Fulani women because we will get these farm products very affordable. But now what happened recently was that I met a Fulani woman who was selling ugu. A Fulani woman selling ugu. She brought ugu in bags. And we know that ugu is something that the Igbo women will always sell and all of that. So now I went to her thinking that, okay, this will be very affordable since it's coming from a Fulani woman, even though it is not their kind of product. When she told me the price of this ugu, I left her immediately. I went to the normal woman or the Igbo woman who would sell ugu for me. Why? Because her price was extremely high. Now I asked her, I said, Madam, in Hausa, wait, I'm getting somewhere. Now I asked her, why is her price higher than even the Igbo women that this is their field. And she told me that they can't go to farm to harvest their crops. So now they have to look for other means to survive. That is why a Fulani woman is now harvesting in quotes or now selling ugu. Now, what is the reason for this? Security. That is why I'm giving you this story, this explanation, because they cannot access their farm products any longer.
Okay, so let me now also give you a narrative. Since Jonathan, we have been pouring trillions into insecurity. We have not been able to solve the problem. You see, you just gave me an explanation now of a Fulani woman whose ugu is expensive because of insecurity. And I'm telling you that government have been pouring trillions into security since Jonathan, and we have not been able to achieve much. You know why? Because you are pouring the money wrongly. Because you are attacking the wrong horse. For us, if you write budget 10 trillion for insecurity and don't get agriculture right, you will still be insecure. So what we are saying is, you must understand
how about budgeting
problem.
a lot for agriculture and then insecurity is not there? So how would the agricultural
the first thing you do is to do what I call pocket security to solve food problem. Then the general insecurity will improve. You have farm estates. Chitu knows my farm very well. You have entities like mine that are covering about 1,000 hectares. Create pocket security for those farm estates. So that in Israel they created the kibbutz. In China they did the farm village. They did the farm villages. I want to work with I want to work cooperative. The Ruga, for example, the Ruga, you create those places, support them with security, then they can farm 10,000 for you. And you cover that place with security. You do that across all the geopolitical zone, across all the senatorial districts, and you bring down the price of food.
Well,
Once you are taking down the price of food, more people will have food to eat, and then they will have less recruiting pool. Boko Haram can recruit because people are hungry.
Mr. Redson, I will stand and I agree with you 100% that what you're saying here this morning, you're right. Because it's a popular says that a hungry man is an angry man. So, like you said, they've been doing a wrong funding. You know, why can't we just try to fund agriculture when people have food, when they have something to eat? You understand? Someone was telling me yesterday that they kidnapped some people and they are requesting for 500,000. You will know that this is hungry. I don't mean this person, you know, has something to do. You won't go and involve in this kidnapping. So I will agree with you.
Because of 500,000.
Yes, I will agree with you. And you don't be surprised if the family of that victim could not pay that money. They might even execute or kill the person because of 500,000.
Guess what? People, armed robbers go to your house to rob. They go enter kitchen chop food. You never hear them.
Of course.
How person go carry gun, risky life, go rob, you go chop person food for inside kitchen.
That shows the hungry man, and that's the reason why he's angry. So I will agree with that on that. Thank you very much, Mr. Redson, for these are very insightful, contribution, and we really appreciate your contribution this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Redson. I'm sure
You're
we'll come
welcome.
visit
Yes,
your farm.
I hope I'm going to have a recorded copy so that I can post it on my Twitter
Of course,
feed.
why not? We're going to send it to you, the link. We are going to send the link to you, and we are coming to your farm to come and see your farm and give us some things that you have.
That would be lovely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my brother.
Well, we have to say the truth, Miracle.
As much as he has made his point, as much as he has said what is in his mind, he's a farmer. He's speaking from his pain.
Of course.
Do you understand? He's speaking from experience, which is right, which is okay. But then, I am not a farmer.
Let me ask you this very quick.
Right?
We have less than 2 minutes. Did you think what this man said? Or what he has said?
I'm not arguing. Why are you making me feel like I'm on a hot seat and we are debating? I am not arguing about what he has said. He has made fantastic points. Really, Nigeria needs to invest in agriculture. Yeah. It is very obvious. It is obvious to the blind. It's very
because
visible
even our
to the blind.
First just
as much as Nigeria
when the Prime
needs
Minister
to do
of
this,
India came to the country, why the ceremony? Why not even go into business? Like he mentioned, the where Indian is lacking a lot of farm produce, and when Nigeria we have it. India have to go to Russia. Why is it that whenever we are expecting
let's come down
we
to
always
base.
look into celebrating, welcoming, and saying this sort of president is bringing sort of. We don't need that. Let's go into business. Let's have an agreement. We have a lot of things. We have rubbers, we have cocoa, we have palm kernel, and there are some countries that they are lacking all these things. Well, thank you very much. And at this joint and particular points, Miracle, we have a very nice section this morning, and we must say thank you, Nigerians, and good mornings to every one of us. Your point.
All right, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, our wonderful viewers and listeners. And then we have more interesting programs. So please stay with us on Politics and Business TV. Until next time, do have a wonderful day.